Hi, Doug. Thanks for spending time with me right now.
Of course, of course.
Can I ask you just to introduce yourself, sort of who you are and what your experience and expertise is?
Yeah, my name is Doug Bolton. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I've been working in schools my entire career. I was started out as a school psychologist in therapeutic schools, and then I was the principal of North Shore Academy, which is a therapeutic school in Highland Park, for 16 years. And since then, I've been leading professional development and consulting to schools to figure out how do we best support kids who've experienced trauma in our school systems.
Excellent. So that's exactly what I want to talk to you about, is like kids that have been exposed to a lot of trauma. And so you know all about us because you're a wonderful friend to the children and you're going to be part of our panel. Um, and as you know, a lot of our kids are significantly behind in reading. Um, And we, for the children, spend a lot of time talking about the brain, right? And so if you've experienced a lot of trauma, you're stuck in your downstairs brain, and
Yeah,
reading, cognitive thinking is in the upstairs part of your brain.
yeah.
And so just we just have a lot of questions about how do you teach a child who's experienced a lot of trauma how to read? And so what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think the first thing is kids who've experienced trauma generally, but especially when you've experienced adolescent academic failure, you are really struggling with a ton of shame as you are trying to engage in this. And what happens with shame is there's a lot of avoidance. And so what we want to do is we want to make just sitting and being comfortable with books, with reading being the primary thing. And the way we do that is what you guys are already really good at, which is relationship. What relationships do is they open up our brains for learning, and they help us make it safe to take risks. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that there are no that there's not shame associated with their struggles. If you begin to notice that they are becoming anxious, being okay to take a break and then teach them how to return, that this emotional regulation is an important piece too, because whenever we're approaching something where we have always experienced or frequently experienced failure or shame, it's very hard to stay engaged in that. So I would say be ready for them to not want to sit down to begin with. Be ready for them to try a little bit and then say, I give up and I quit. And instead of exhorting them to push through it, say, let's take a break. Um, re-engage that brain in a way that allows it to quiet. Let's take a break and then come back to this. That's a hard one, whatever that looks like. But I think that the most important thing we can do, there are going to be teachers who are going to be able to teach literacy, hopefully, and you'll get some learning about that, but really being comfortable through your relationship with them, helping them be comfortable and regulated as they read, I think is the most important thing we can do. And then slowly they develop the ability to be more comfortable with books, to take more risks in reading than they've ever taken before, to access support from all of you, that this is really the work that I think you can do that can really be transformative.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And then I just have one last question.
Yeah.
Um, our kids live in continual trauma, right? Like the homes they go
Yeah.
to are continual. And like, what if someone's thinking like, we just need to deal with the trauma first, and then later we'll get to reading? Like, do you have to sort of address all of the trauma before you can get to the reading? Or what are your thoughts about that?
What I would say is this process is a process of addressing the trauma. What we want to do with trauma is help. The ways that trauma most disrupts our lives is it impacts our ability to form relationships, healthy relationships, and our ability to stay regulated. And so all of a sudden, there can be huge reactions to what otherwise seems small, huge reactions to being asked to read, huge reactions to being asked to do something that's hard, huge reactions to anything that may trigger memories of their trauma. And so what we want to do, the treatment for trauma at its most basic level is through relationship and through regulation. And so I think using reading to be able to do that is a wonderful way of doing that. And I think that the key piece in all of this is being engaged in something that you enjoy is also healing for trauma. And if we can help them engage in reading as being another, moving from a source of stress for them to a source of comfort, all the better.
That's great. Thank you so, so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Of
I'm
course,
gonna-
it's always wonderful to see you.